This is from Pro Football Network. It's a 3-round mock draft. They had the Titans taking Cam Ward, number 1 overall. And then they have the Browns taking Travis Hunter, wide receiver, cornerback from Colorado. The Giants, they have taken Shedeur Sanders right after the Browns. When you look at Hunter, if you decide to take him, you have to have a plan for him. And as I'm saying that, it's not unlike the plan they had for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. They didn't give him everything all at once because you got to make sure. So if he's a receiver, you got to make sure he understands how to be an NFL receiver before you throw him and ask him to be an NFL cornerback as well.
Yeah, no question about it. But I think with Travis Hunter, we don't have to question the athletic ability to play both positions because he's done that. I mean, he might have some of the best athleticism we've ever seen at a draft prospect because we're talking a guy who won the Heisman playing more than 100 snaps a game between both offense and defense, and doing it in Colorado, no less, where you have altitude, which makes it even more impressive. But for me, with Travis Hunter, I've said this before, I think Daniel Jeremiah is on the same page as I am, that I think Travis Hunter might be a better receiver than he is a corner. And if you're the Browns, you're taking him second overall. I think it needs to be as a receiver because, I mean, where are you going to slot him in at corner? I mean, you already have Denzel Ward, MJ Emerson slotted as starters for 2025. I know there's injury concerns with Denzel Ward, and you also have Greg Newsome there for depth. But at receiver, really all you have is Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. And Tillman, I still have a lot of belief in. I think he showed a lot prior to his season-ending concussion. But I think you put Travis Hunter into that offense, and immediately you have another game breaker. And we've talked before about the Browns that maybe Andrew Berry has not. One thing I can say about Andrew Berry, and one thing I can kind of pointed to as a piece of criticism, he hasn't drafted enough offensive help and especially skill positions early in drafts. Most of his early picks have been on defense, and you could see how it's turned into defense that even though they weren't quite as elite as they were a year ago, was certainly still, I think, would have been better if they were complemented with with a much better offense. With Travis Hunter, I mean, I feel like it's easy to just forget how good he was in 2024. I know receiver's not as premium a position as cornerback or edge rusher, but I think for the Browns, considering you had the worst offense in the NFL, you take Travis Hunter and you make him a receiver from day one, and maybe you sprinkle in some third down opportunities as a corner because the experience he has playing both corner and receiver, he understands both sides of that matchup. And when you have that mental edge, you have such an advantage over so many guys you're going against because most corners or receivers by college only play one or the other. They don't play both the way Travis Hunter did.
Yep, I'm with you. As long as you have a plan, and that if it's wide receiver, make sure he's got that down before you use him at the other one. All right. So coming back in the second round, pick 33, that draft has the Browns taking a quarterback, Jackson Dart of Ole Miss. And you and I were talking. I know you're not as into Jackson Dart as I am, and I get it. He kills the middle of the field with accuracy. He moves in the pocket better than I thought he did. I get the whole gimmicky offense and not a lot of throws downfield. I get that as a concern. There's just something about him that the arm strength is pretty good. You know, Lane Kiffin was an NFL guy. Same thing as Shedeur. You know, he played for Pat Shurmur. So there are NFL concepts in that offense.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make it sound like I don't understand the hype of Jackson Dart. I think for when it comes to draft prospects, even if I don't necessarily like a guy, I try to do my best to understand why certain people will like him. And I think with Jackson Dart, he has the look. I mean, you look at him, he has some of the physical tools you look for in a quarterback, arm talent, accuracy, those sorts of things. But I feel like, and I talked about this on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast on Friday with Dan Lobby and Lance Riseland. I basically said I feel like with Jackson Dart, I'm always left wanting more. I feel like he has all these tools, but for whatever reason, it's just not sticking out to me. I think I watched like about a 9-minute highlight film, and it took about 4 minutes for me to see a throw that I was like, okay, wow, I really see the hype with Jackson Dart. That's not to say he can't be a very good quarterback. Obviously, he had a very good week. He had a good week at the Senior Bowl. He's helping himself out with his stock. Could certainly get in the first round. But there are concerns that I feel like won't be alleviated until he gets on an NFL field. And that's kind of weird to say because, of course, it's of course we're not going to know what these guys are like till they step on an NFL field in September. None of us do. None of the we can't get answers to any of these guys. But when it comes to his ability to process on the field, being in that Ole Miss offense where things can be schemed open so much more easily, it creates those easy completions for Jackson Dart. It's not as easy to do in the NFL. Kevin Stefanski's offense has been capable of doing that, but not nearly at the level at Ole Miss. So certainly there are questions about Dart, and I think if you're the Browns or a team taking him, you kind of have to be willing to let him sit, let him marinate, and let him catch up to NFL speed before you throw him out there.
All right, before I let you go, we got about a minute. Their first pick in the third round, they go with TreVeyon Henderson, running back from Ohio State. And I think if he's there at 67, the Browns will take a cab to get the pickup quicker.
Yeah, I mean, this is an elite running back class. This is one of the best running back classes like in recent memory. And I think if you're the Browns considering the future of Nick Chubb and whether he can be Nick Chubb again is, uncertain, you have to take a running back. You simply have to, especially in day two. TreVeyon Henderson made himself a lot of money in the playoff. It's a tough call between him and Quinshon Judkins, who's the better running back. But I would give the notch to not the edge to Henderson a little bit, just because I think he's a little better when it comes to creating explosive plays. And in the NFL, any guy you have on offense that creates explosive plays is a huge positive. So that's why I give Henderson the edge just a tiny bit over Judkins, who's a much more powerful runner.